2,000 years ago, the most powerful man on earth sat alone in his tent, at night, after a day of war, and wrote a letter to no one but himself. He wasn't writing orders. He wasn't writing to his generals, or his senate, or his son. He was writing to remind himself how to think. That man was Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome. And the philosophy he was practicing, quietly, privately, without an audience, is the same philosophy that today's most disciplined people still turn to, 17 centuries later. It's called Stoicism, and by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why it built emperors, generals, and some of the calmest minds in history, and why it might be exactly what your mind needs too. Let's clear something up first. Stoicism does not mean having no emotions. That's the modern misuse of the word. Real Stoicism, the ancient philosophy, is something far more useful. Stoicism is a framework for telling the difference between what you can control and what you can't, and putting all your energy into the first category, while making peace with the second. It began in Athens, around 300 BC, founded by a merchant named Zeno, who lost everything in a shipwreck and, instead of falling apart, started asking a simple question: what is actually in my power? That question became the foundation of an entire school of thought. Over the next few centuries, it spread across the Greek and Roman world, and it attracted an unusual range of followers, not just philosophers, but statesmen, soldiers, and eventually, an emperor. To understand Stoicism, you really only need to know three men. Seneca, a Roman statesman and advisor to the Emperor Nero, a job that came with immense danger. Seneca wrote letters to a friend, full of advice on wasting time, fearing death, and handling wealth without being ruined by it. He wrote as if he were talking directly to you, which is part of why his work still feels so alive today. Epictetus, born a slave. Yes, one of history's most influential philosophers on freedom, started life with none of it. Epictetus taught that no one can truly control your mind unless you let them, that a man in chains can still be free, if his thinking is his own. His teachings were written down by a student, in a short manual called the Enchiridion. Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man alive at the time, and yet, every night, he sat down and wrote private notes to himself, reminding himself not to be corrupted by power, not to lose his temper, not to fear death. Those notes became the book we now call Meditations, and it's still one of the most read philosophy books in the world today. Three very different lives: a slave, an advisor, and an emperor. And yet they all arrived at the same core ideas. Stoicism is built on four virtues. Not rules, virtues. Habits of mind you build over a lifetime. Wisdom, the ability to see situations clearly, without being clouded by fear or desire. Courage, not the absence of fear, but acting rightly in spite of it. Justice, treating others fairly, because you're part of a larger whole, not separate from it. Temperance, self-control, the discipline to want what's good for you, not just what feels good right now. Notice something about all four of these: none of them depend on external circumstances. You don't need money, power, or luck to practice any of them. That's the entire point. The Stoics built a system of living well that works regardless of what life throws at you, which is exactly why it appealed to a slave and an emperor equally. Here's the idea that ties it all together, and the one thing worth remembering above everything else in this video. The dichotomy of control. Some things are up to you, your thoughts, your effort, your reactions. Some things are not, other people's opinions, the past, most outcomes. Suffering, the Stoics argued, comes from confusing the two. From trying to control what isn't yours to control, and neglecting what actually is. That single idea is why this philosophy has outlasted empires. It doesn't ask you to change the world. It asks you to change your relationship to it. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations for us. He wrote it for himself, at night, in private, just trying to become a slightly better version of who he was that morning. That's really what Stoicism has always been, not a performance, not a lifestyle brand. Just a quiet, private discipline of the mind. In the next video, we'll go inside Meditations itself, and break down the 10 lessons Marcus Aurelius left behind that still apply, word for word, today. If this way of thinking speaks to you, subscribe. This channel